Hello, welcome to another video about the techniques of electronic torture, part 4. So the name of the video is Electronic Torture, Techniques 4. Well, in my last video I said something and I was aware that maybe some things were not clear. Well, I try to add a little bit things I said in my last video. Well, I said that we have a DNA double string, DNA double helix, two strings producing scalar waves. Other cell can pick up the scalar wave, and then if a scalar wave comes into a coil, the electrons move. Well, if you like, it is the same way electricity is produced. You remember my first video of this techniques, part 1. Well, there's a magnet moving in a copper loop, like in a generator. If you produce electricity in a power station, well, the same our cell does. They sending gravitones via scalar waves, via this vacuum channels inside a transversal electromagnetic wave. They are tubes or channels of vacuum, because these gravitones, they spinning around and they producing vacuum channel, and this vacuum channel, if there's the same resonance between a sending station and receiving station, if they have the same frequency and they going into resonance, there's a vacuum channel built up, and there is a real-time connection, no loss of time. There's no time inside a scalar wave, inside this vacuum channel. Well, and they can communicate these two bodies, if you like, these two cells of our body. They can communicate in real time. There's no loss of time. There's no time loss. Well, so it is a kind of power station. Scalar wave comes, the gravitones inside the scalar wave, they're making the cell coil, so the DNA string, moving the electrons on it, and there can be patterns like rhythms. If you think about music, how fast, there are different speeds. Well, this is about our cell communication, and it's so small energy you can't measure it with normal voltmeter or whatever you can buy in an electronic shop. It's not possible. It is so minuscule, so small. Anyway, it is not quite easy to catch a scalar wave. There are only few people who can have this meters for making a scalar wave, that they see a scalar wave. It's not so easy. Why? Maybe the Russian scientists, they have this, but in our Western societies, like US, like Germany, where I live, well, there are no such devices, apparatus to measure scalar waves, because it is unknown. It is unknown to the Western scientists. Only a few, like Konstantin Meil in Germany, or Tom Bearden in US, they know about scalar wave because they studied Nikola Tesla's works. So Nikola Tesla was the one who discovered scalar wave, and the Russians get all his technology, and they developed it, and the Russian nation is the highest nation of scalar wave technology. I can say this because I was in Russia, and it was incredible what they can do. It is no comparison to Western torture, because these Western companies in the US, they got these things from Russia, and they rebuilt it somehow, and maybe with the help of God, there were Christian people inside these companies, and they made it not so well. But in Russia, this machine's working very well, and they can kill you in 1, 2, 3 days, no problem. Well, this is another subject. I made a video in German, but I don't think I have the time to tell all about my experience in Russia. I was glad to be home again. Well, other things I said, for example, there are different frequencies in our body, and our DNA signal is a frequency in the ultraviolet range. There are also frequencies in the visible light spectrum, and also infrared, so that means warming. Your body has also warming waves. As you know, you have a constant temperature. In Germany we say 37 degree Celsius. I don't know what it is you have Fahrenheit, so but you know, we have a stable temperature, and of course we have also power stations in our cells that produced infrared radiation, so that means warming. Well, you may think, how can it be visible light in our body, and why can't we see? So what is this man talking about? So you should see visible light. So why don't we see these lights? Because nobody can glow or shine in the night like a lamp. Well, as I said, the Western scientists, they were only looking for these frequencies. Frequencies is how many times in a second a wave swings. For example, 1 hertz means 1 beat in a second. Our brain produces low frequencies. If you are deep sleep, you have 3 hertz, so that means 3 beats in a second. If you dream, it's 4 hertz, and so on. Okay, they are low frequencies, but this ultraviolet, it's a 1 and 15 zeros. So that, I don't know what it is. 1000 is 3 zeros, and then 15 zeros behind 1.11. So that means I can't say this in words. Million, trillion, whatever beats in a second, and light is a little bit lower. It can be you have a light frequency in your body, but the scalar wave inside this transversal wave is slow. So the photons, our cells are communicating with photons, so that means light quantums. It can be in the frequency of light, but the scalar wave inside this transversal wave can be another speed. So they're coming slow, and so we can't see, because our body slow them down. So the photons comes slow enough that they can be used for communication, among our cells. So, well, last video I said, well, we have visible light in our body, so you think, well, it can't be because I can't see it. Well, in the scalar wave it can be another speed, a slower speed, so and then it's not visible for our eyes. Well, if I talk about photons, somebody made them visible with an electron microscope. There was a Russian scientist, forgive me, I don't know his name. It's not so long ago. Maybe there were several Russian scientists. They were working with gravity biology. They knew that the living forms, they're communicating with photons, bio-quantums, and if you cut up a leaf and you put away this piece of a leaf, the photons still remain. They still remain at the same place, and you can see them with an electron microscope. So they stay in the old shape where the leaf was maybe few minutes ago, maybe 1 hour ago. They stay a long time here. It's funny because you think this piece is gone, it's away, they put it away, but you still see this bio-quantums, these photons, they stay a certain time. I don't know how long, but there are special scientists in Russia. They do this, and they have in University of Moscow and St. Petersburg, they have institutes, and they, with the name of gravity biology, the same expression like Tom Bearden took. Well, Tom Bearden was so impressed about the Russian scientists. The title of his book is, for that reason, he chose gravity biology. But in Russia, it's in both universities of St. Petersburg and Moscow. It's established science in both universities. I said about photons and Tom Bearden. He says in this book here how gravitons are building. It is because the photons, they spin around, and they are photons, anti-photons, and they spinning and spinning, and they think about snowball effect. The mass becomes more and more, and then you have a graviton. A graviton has much more weight, much more mass than a photon. A photon is very, very tiny, and some people, they were discussing what is light. Is it a wave or is it a material? Well, it's both. Nikola Tesla said there was first energy and then came materia. So if you like, our whole body is made by light, and these light photons, they are spinning around, building gravitons, building, I don't know how many levels there are, but at one point you have atoms with electrons, then you have water, stuffs, chemical stuffs. Well, this is a very high level. There are levels below, like quantums, bio-quantums, photons, gravitons. Well, if you like, our body is a prison of light, because the light has special information how to spin around, to stay, the photons stay, they're building materia, and when we die, our energy goes back into this field to God. Some say God, or some say Gaia, whatever you like, because on the earth there's a big energy. All creatures, all living forms are connected with, and we are part of it. Well, I think I read a little bit more of Tom Bearden to give you an impression how this energy and this all is connecting together. And well, the sad thing is, if you can control this technology, you can use it as a weapon, but this thing is so fascinating. Well, I think I will read a little bit. I read last time from his book, GRAVITYBIOLOGY. I read a little bit more, some other parts. It's very interesting. It should especially be noted that potentials organize into entire hierarchies of organization. That is, a potential is normally a conglomerate composed of many smaller potentials, each of unique Whittaker structure. The stress of a potential is rather analogous to the pressure in a mixture of gases. The overall pressure of the gaseous mixture is composed of partial pressures of the various gaseous components. Each gaseous component has its own individual contribution to the overall pressure of the entire gaseous mix. In the case of the potential, the overall Whittaker structure of a particular potential is comprised of the overall Whittaker structures of its component potentials. The point is, a quantum potential of one entity is composed of the partial quantum potentials of its component entities. Well, note that each living cell of a biological organism is itself a complete biological organism. Each cell has its own individual bioquantum potential. Insofar as that cell is concerned, its species bioquantum potential is the body bioquantum potential of the whole animal of which the cell is a part. Even organs of an animal have their own biopotentials, as does every physical structure and division of everything in the universe, and everything intracommunicates and intercommunicates via hidden electromagnetic energy. Well, I just go on in this text because it's very interesting. Successively deeper Whittaker potentials are nested inside the bioquantum potential for the cell, one for each next smaller level of interior structure. The end result is that the cellular hierarchical structure continues directly down into and onto the nucleus of each atom composing that structure. This is the manner in which the life of a living system is attached to and activates the physical matter of its body. We have thus specified precisely what the living spirit of a body is. Communication between all living levels continually occurs via the mechanisms contained in the two Whittaker papers, Whittaker 1903, enfolding external electromagnetic at one level into internal electromagnetic at the next lower level, and Whittaker paper 1904, outfolding electromagnetic at one internal level to the next outer externalized level. Thus, in a true sense, all life on the planet is completely intercommunicative and intracommunicative. So intra means inside, inter between. So intercommunicative and intracommunicative. Literally, the planet is a living being and a special kind of Gaia exists. Particularly strong Whittaker structuring communication occurs between an individual member of a species and its species bio-quantum potential at fertilization / conception and at death. So what is he talking about? If something happens very strong happens, like fertilization, if you like orgasm or dying, so there's a communication among this special human being, and this communication can be catched up by other human beings who are around or in the near. Well, maybe you know this. Maybe you can feel it. I go on in the text and then I make some remarks. Particularly strong Whittaker structuring communication occurs between an individual member of a species and its species bio-quantum potential at fertilization, conception, and at death. Thus, at cell division, formation of a new cell, mitogenetic radiation is more strongly emitted, showing that increased communication has occurred in a relatively impulsive manner. The recorded experience of the body is communicated to the new cell at this time. At the death of the cell, again, mitogenetic radiation is more strongly emitted, showing that again impulsive communication has occurred. The recorded experience of a cell, particularly its most recent experiences, are impulsively transmitted at this time from the outfolding Whittaker structures of its biopotential. Well, so my remarks are maybe you have experience if you maybe you know this in this times where people dying inside their families, not in a hospital like today, they were all sitting around this dying person laying in a bed, and when he died, they were feeling this because the cell communication inside this dying person increase, and others are surround, they can feel it. Well, unfortunately, there are people who are addicted to this feeling, doing satanic practice, killing people, especially children, in rituals, just to feel this energy. They call it black energy or Satan's energy, but it's a lie. It is a form of living. The cells are communicating, and they are addicted to feel this cell communication of a dying person, and they they playing God, say why, well, let's kill some other children of somebody else, other people, just to have this funny feeling, yes. But this is all about bioquantum potentials, the connections between these potentials. There's a quantum potential among a species, so inside our human being species, if something happens, like a birth or like a fertilization, well, we can feel it. And well, there are also other things quite interesting. Well, animals, they feel a little bit more because they are not so, they are more sensitive for these things. But okay, I think that was enough of this book, Tom Bearden, Biology. And if you like, you can find it in the internet, or you can read it by your own. But I think it's better to speak in my own words because I'm not so good in reading English texts. I hope you could understand it. And yeah, what can I say? I said something. There were things in my last video I want to explain a little bit better. Yes, there was one thing I said. I said if you have this shortcut, this Morgellon is a shortcut for our DNA signals, for body cell signals, and these Morgellons are connected with copper, that they can store energy. But this torture has nothing to do with cell communication. It is just giving our body cells a direct shock via this Morgellons, because they're sending the pure DNA signal to our DNA double helix, to our power station, if you like, cell power station. This double helix coil, such a huge energy, scalar wave gravitones, that they get so disturbed that our body reacts with pain. So they're moving electrons inside this helix, and also there are mushrooms. If you see those films, look out for Charlie. We have a film of candida, or fungi, or mushrooms are all in our body. They produce electrolytes like mangan oxide, and they make currency flow. Yeah, we have currency in our whole body. Why? Because all this cell phone towers sending energy, scalar waves, to our bodies, and we are full with Morgellons and also metals that are magnetic. And last time I said about, I was talking about copper, but there are some more metals. Like in my other videos, there are barium and strontium. They spray over us, we inhale it, and it's in our nervous system. Not only, so the scalar waves are communicating with our body cells, but in our nervous system, so that means our fixed wire system, as you like. You know, we have like wires, we have this nerves, they're going all into our brain, and our brain gives us commands so that we can move. And in this nerves strings, there are this magnetic metals like barium and strontium, and with the cell phone towers they get magnetic, and our whole nervous system is disturbed. And you can imagine if this 5G comes, it will become even more horrible for us. And you have to put also out this metals, heavy metals, magnetic heavy metals, that makes you electro sensitive. Also, if you are not a target individuum, you have to do it no matter if you are targeted or not, because you're suffering of it, and they can more influence your mind, because this magnetic metals in your nervous system, they can connect with the scalar wave. Normally they do it in the back brain, and then they can give you commands, and you think it is your own thoughts, but maybe not. Maybe these thoughts are not your own. Somebody wants a special way how you think and how you feel. And this Morgellons is a special application for quantum dot size. It is like a filter. They are red Morgellons. They can send frequencies or frequencies for our cells, especially for our brain cells that influence our feelings. The blue ones are more for thoughts. So this all together, it's a perfect composition. Electromagnetic metals, heavy metals, Morgellons together. There are also piezo crystals I was talking about. Well, this all together can influence your mind. Also, if you are not a target individuum, what I always stress is that whole mankind is targeted, but there are some of us who are tortured, and the majority is not tortured, but of course they are also targeted. Well, I say something a little bit about flat coil. Yes, a flat coil is the best way to make a scalar wave. And if you have a flat coil, I was talking about information. Well, you can build up an information field with this flat coil. You can put something on it. It is hard to believe, but it works not only with cells, healthy cells, cancer cells. Last video I was talking about cancer healing with scalar wave. You can also put on it a photograph. You know, photograph is quite simple. It's only 2 dimensions, and you put on a photograph, and if this information field made by this flat coil catch up this photo, you can hit a person, and this is the reason why they always makes photos of us. There was a time I had every day stupid guy try to make pictures. While the pictures with a smartphone are not dangerous, but they were cameras object like this. They came and they were pretending they're making a film, but they try to make a good picture of me, and with this picture they can make the scalar waves on this flat coil. They copy this picture, and then they can enforce the torture. Well, you can do it if you want to buy something. There's you can do it. Maybe there's a trick you can do. I explained in German already. While I think I will also explain in English. If you have this cable, you are at home, you are under attack. You put here this is a German Schuko system. It's not interesting. The interesting thing is just a cable. If you put this inside your house system, electricity, there are currency, and there are also scalar waves. There's also electromagnetic field, information field. It is not so effective and not so good like this, but somehow it works. You take some water in it, a glass, you put it here beside this cable, and also you put beside is a picture of your perp, your penetrate, the person who hit you with this devices. I choose this Michelin Man. It is a company from France, make for cars this you know. it's just a stupid picture, because I can't show here pictures of my neighbors. I have a small camera, and in some situations I put this on my bike, and when they came the street, I catch them with the camera, and then I go to a video program, and then I make stop, and then I have a picture, I print it out, and so I put it here beside glass of water, cable, and then you wait maybe just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you drink the water, and all the information of this photograph is in this water, because this scalar wave, they have copied it into the water, you drink it, and when they shoot on you, you give this back, and then you will see they immediately shut down this torture machines. It works. You can imagine it must be much better with this, but I don't have it, because I can imagine if I buy it, it's not so cheap. It's not cheap if you have a good one, and the risk is too high. They came into my apartment to destroy it maybe, but it works. You can also copy pictures with scalar waves into another media, in water. It sounds a little bit like hocus pocus, and well, you just try it, and then you will see that it works. It must be the right person. Don't take a picture of somebody you don't, you are not sure, but if you are sure who is shooting you, well, you can try this. Well, I think this is enough, maybe. Some other things I forgot to say is, well, so Bio-Quantums, photones, and yeah, well, they find out our special potential, because our DNA is a special potential, and their weapons work exactly like this, but normally they take this information from this picture, and they digitalize it, and they can they have digital devices to tune this torture broadcast. It can also be a blood sample, a picture, but it's working the same way, and maybe it's more sophisticated. Maybe it's not only a single coil, there are also combinations, many flat coils, a big, smaller one, and so on. There are some flat coils combined, but in the machines, in this small boxes, I can see them when they bring it up. When I look through my door, there's a spy. I see these boxes. They are not very big. They are maybe the size of this paper or even smaller, but inside there are all these flat coils and special tuning for digital tuning apparatus. Well, that's all, and normally they don't have to tune. They just bringing it over my head, and then there's somebody outside. Well, how can I call him or she? There are also many women who do this, chasing me with a car. There's maybe a master or somebody who has all cars on, so there are so many cars have these devices inside, and the drivers are not hidden because they have a they have another DNA. So they need just your special DNA, and they got no hit, but you got it, and it is possible because they have monopol-magets. This device is this is maybe one pole, minus, plus, I don't know, and you are the other pole of a magnet. So the gravitones, they catch you, even if you around the corner, they come around the corner, because gravitones can fly in curves, they can go around, and inside there's a vacuum channel. In the scalar wave there's a vacuum channel. It can also go through a wall. So, well, I think this is, for this time it's enough. That's all for this part. See you next video.